All right. Well, let's go ahead and end off today's show with the last of the films that we have here to talk about, and that would be the latest from Pixar. Elio, it's interesting, Peter, as you pull up the letterbox description here, this one's going to have a couple of people credited as the director. Originally, this was supposed to be by Adrian Molina, and then he left the project and was replaced by two directors. One of which is very notable in the canon of Pixar.
Elio. Directed by, and this is the first name that pops up, Domi Shi and Madeline Sharafian and Adrian Molina.
Mm-hmm.
They asked for our leader. They got him. Elio, a space fanatic with an active imagination, finds himself on a cosmic misadventure where he must form new bonds with eccentric alien life forms, navigate a crisis of intergalactic proportions, and somehow discover who he is truly meant to be. Elio.
So, as we mentioned, we walked in late. You have not had the chance at all to see what really amounted to the first 15 minutes or even 20 minutes. It was a while. Some things of setting up the story. So the movie begins with, a younger Elio establishing that his parents had just died and he's now living with his Aunt Olga. Then he stumbles into the what looks like to be a planetarium, and he discovers that there may be life out there in the universe, and it plays not Carl Sagan but somebody else saying, basically the history of how they launched that satellite, and it ends with like, "Are we alone?" And that kind of marries that whole idea, like he's at that point already feeling so alone that that's the origin of that idea of like him wanting to leave and go find somebody else where he's not going to feel that lonely anymore. Then we kind of get like a sequence to him trying to find the right beach. It looks like he goes to all these beaches and kind of like sets himself up for being abducted, but because it's during the day, people around kind of ruin that. That's kind of like, that was a bit of a song, a needle drop to Talking Heads. And then we see him, I believe, at night, and he meets these two kids, one of which is to bring him a radio to help him set up and get that message, which is semi-successful, although it kind of gets interrupted by this other kid who's kind of a bully to him. They get into a fight, and then they kind of get into the air base or whatever they're at, the Navy, Army base, I don't know what it was. And then when you and I walked into the movie, one of the scientists was saying, "Hey, we got this message. I'm ready to say hello back. Are you ready?" And then the aunt says, "You're crazy. Take a week off. Bye." And then at which point Elio records the message and sends the message. That's more or less what happens. But I think that's like a really quick way of establishing things. Because I know that there's going to be an issue being brought up of things that were not set up or were sporadic, and that being the case. I think if I were to just to start off with getting the basics out of the way with, I really connected with the main character, Elio, in ways that I rarely do connect with characters. I love a lot of characters, but rarely do I find myself being represented. I find myself to be kind of an enigma of an individual. Peter would probably disagree. I think he probably has me dead to rights for many ways, and would laugh at me for categorizing me in whatever kind of box he would want to put me in, or boxes. But I tend to find myself not really being understood or hard to relate to. And
like the Joker.
So few movies. There's one that I told you he would do. There have been so few movies where there have been, like, I think, lead characters that I would say remind me of how I was as a kid. And I cannot even begin to tell you that Elio is the kind of movie that I really wish I had, because when I was that age, because I really
You
do
were brown, unloved, and obsessed with aliens?
I wow. I wouldn't say unloved, but I would say misunderstood. And because I don't think, I mean, Elio, I guess to an extent feels unloved, but I
He
think
feels
mostly
unloved.
it just feels like that no
he
one really
doesn't
gets
fit
him.
anywhere.
Yeah, basically. And I felt that way for a long time too. And I think it's been a long time thing on this podcast that I really have uh, kind of a fascination with outer space and aliens and all that stuff. I mean, my favorite movie is E.T. So there's that. It's like right there. Um, but like this is a different kind of lead character. In the sense that he's like unabashedly kind of weird and a goofball at that too. Um, just in every way in how he acts and how he absorbs things and what he's trying to do. Uh, I gotta tell you, this really resonated with me, and it also just speaks to. I love the idea of tying in the whole fascination with going to outer space with like, are we alone? And this idea of loneliness. It kind of connects back to how Steven Spielberg views E.T., which is like ultimately it's about a movie of how do you fill the loneliness of the child and what extraordinary things would take place. Um, I really have enjoyed the storytelling efforts of Pixar lately. I think for me personally, I wouldn't say it's like rivaling it, but I think thematically it's speaking to similar things that Luca and Turning Red were. I think that the three films also have kind of a carry through in terms of like how they look in the animation and the way that the characters are animated and how they're more than the other Pixar films being made to do a few more animated kind of things. They're not just humans, but they're speaking to something that I think I'm quite jealous of kids right now that get to grow up with these kinds of movies that they're speaking to this.
They're not watching this movie, they're watching TikTok.
And I'm very happy with the fact that that these kinds of messages are being there out there, because to me I was quite touched, I was quite moved, and I loved just about everything about it. Um, and yeah, but now we can only go down from here. So let's go ahead and commence with the pillaring. David, let's go ahead and begin with you. You told me you were quite bored at the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning was, yeah, it was boring. Mainly because it felt like I was just watching the trailer. You already knew most of this stuff, but then also I had some complaints with the setups that they had. I really disliked in the beginning when they gave us the information of what happened to Elio's parents. It was just basically the dialogue went like, "Oh yeah, I heard about his parents. How are you doing about your brother and all that?" And it's just, like, I don't know. It felt really. It didn't feel natural or anything like that. And yeah, like I said in the beginning, it was just the trailer. Everything that we've seen, the bad guy coming in, wanting to destroy the place and all that. It wasn't until Glordon showed up that I was like, oh, okay, now we're getting to the fun part. I instantly loved him when he came in, and those two together are just fun to watch for sure. Yeah, after that, it was for sure getting good. Everything that they did set up, not just the very beginning, but with the one friend and that radio, or the dude who like got fired, I guess, or got suspension.
He was sent on break.
Yeah. Everything that is set up there, really nice payoff. And then me and Ale, our biggest complaint really was that the I guess the emotions, or we didn't feel connected with the Ant and Elio. how when they finally connected, we just we didn't feel anything for that, sadly. And I think for one reason is because she lost her brother, and that's never really brought up at all for her character. And I feel like you could have used that to bring them in together, especially when they had that heart-to-heart moment. I feel like you could have added a line of like, "Oh, you remind me so much of him" or something. But no, we get nothing, and that's why we felt we're kind of like. That's why it just felt. That's why we didn't feel anything for their relationship. Everything else, though, with the whole debris field and everything, that was great. We for sure felt more emotional on that scene than anything else, and the payoff at the end was great. But yeah,
Peter, let's bring it home.
I'm probably in the middle between you guys because clearly David despised it. Clearly, Elio is gonna be on Alexis's number one, like he did bullshit in the past.
Wait, stop.
I'm in the middle.
Real quick.
Yes. Hello.
I will note
yes.
to support what you were saying.
Okay.
Support
Yes.
You. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna defend.
I love
you.
support.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did notice. It seemed to me David had a couple more criticisms of Elio than How to Train Your Dragon.
That is true. That is very true. Yes.
That's how it came off. So I just put that out there. And then I would like for you to explain what you mean bullshit foolishness that Alexis does. What do you mean by that?
You'll like see a movie and then like it and then put it as your number one.
Don't we all do that? Like, how is that unique to me?
Yeah, but you'll do it with like Eternals and Sing 2.
I am not at all opposed to the narrative that you're trying to put out there, Peter, but I am offended by the titles that you threw out there. Because
me as well.
You fucking
me as well.
About? Like, I never put Sing 2 as my favorite movie of anything, and Eternals was not my number one of any year. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, and I also am quite offended that you would think that Elio is in the same company as Sing 2 or Eternals. It's just like, hey,
I don't, but I'm saying you have in the past. I don't. I find it offensive as well.
Well, I guess I should be. Well, I said I was a bit put off by the clear representation that you're trying to paint there with a broad brush, and no, it's like, if you remember my favorite movies of the last couple of years, I guess in some sense I should be complimented in a way. I guess what
absolutely.
I'm saying, I think you're complimenting me in terms of like how easily it is able to see what my favorite movies are of the last couple of years. I think everybody saw Luca. Everybody called it. Everybody called Fabelmans. Even you were so mad at Fabelmans, you were forbidding me from putting it at number one because it was so clear. Look, the point is
that was when the trailer came out. That rule was made when the trailer came out because that's how well I know you.
The point is, I think I respond rather emotionally, and passionately to films that I think feel like they were made for me. The Fabelmans feels like it was made for me. Luca feels like it was made for me. Elio feels like it was made for me. So forgive me for responding to things that I love. Like, yes,
Fabelmans was made for adulterous whores.
David, do you want to comment on that? Because I mean, I guess you're an adulterous whore. You seem like the movie a lot, The Fabelmans. know what to
I
say.
don't know.
I want to comment on
David.
the having more criticisms of Elio than How to Train Your Dragon. If it, How to Train Your Dragon in comparison to the animated one, there was a whole lot more problems. Okay, like if I didn't know the commentary, I would not shut up about the comparisons. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that. Okay. Just. I love how we're just the last 5 minutes have been just a point of order. Sorry.
I know. I'm just trying to make a point. My ultimate point being that I probably come somewhere within the middle of these two varying views on the film. And that overall, actually, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I just feel that it's pretty, for me anyway, it was pretty damn apparent that it went through some real restructuring.
Especially if you watch that trailer, the first trailer.
Did you go back and see that trailer?
The what?
Did you go back and see that first teaser trailer?
I did.
It's a completely different film.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an entirely. If you go back and see that teaser trailer, he doesn't call her aunt. He calls her mom. That was his mom.
Yeah,
Real quick, Peter, can you, David? Look, I don't know what it is, but like, I have been excited about this movie since I first heard about it, but I don't think I ever watched the teaser more than once. You got a chance to see it more than once?
Yeah.
You were saying that you would watch it a lot. How?
They were showing
No
it
one
in
else
theaters a
watched
lot.
it.
They would show it
What?
a couple of times.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters
Really?
a lot. And I mean, I completely forgot about the whole, that was supposed to be his mom.
Not only that, he's not obsessed with aliens. He's actively avoiding trying to be abducted. He doesn't view it as a good thing. And he does, the way that the message goes out is he calls her to pick him up from camp because it looks like he hates being there, and that just so happens to be when the aliens reach out and they intercept her cell phone call, and then that's how they hear his message of like, okay, goodbye, love you. And then they completely changed that. And then also the main bad guy,
he's with
that
him.
slug monster,
Gregor.
he wasn't the bad Quigor or whatever. He wasn't he wasn't the bad guy. He was a member of the alien leadership universe or whatever. Just completely different setup. Just a completely different story.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I also noticed? Am I wrong? But because I went back and watched the teaser a couple of times, wasn't it a completely different voice actor too? It was not the same. I think. Voice actor.
I don't know.
The voice sounds different. I think a little slightly.
Well,
younger, but it wasn't.
They took so long to make it.
Yeah.
I would imagine maybe the actor aged out of the voicing, maybe.
It sounds younger than the final version of Elio. I mean, maybe it was the same actor and he just kind of aged.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Glordon character, I guarantee did not exist at the time of that teaser.
I didn't remember seeing him at all.
No.
But I'm saying I don't even think at that stage of development he just wasn't. He didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
He had no reason to exist. So you can tell, at least for me watching it, because there's a lot of just the pacing and the way certain things and story elements like pop up out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, this went through some restructuring. It's a little wonky the way it's structured. It's like, because at first it's about him. It's like, okay, you're pretending to be a leader. Now it's about an invasion. Now it's about him connecting with this other kid. Now we're back on Earth. Now we're back with the alien. Like, there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell there's some multiple cooks in the kitchen. But what those cooks cooked up, I actually kind of dig. Like, I like the idea of exploring individual loneliness and then sort of taking that on a galactic scale. And it's like looking at through the eyes of like mankind, right? Because that's what, when we look to the skies and think of extraterrestrials, that's the question, are we alone, right? And to sort of personalize that in a way, I think is so cool. And I think they have certain moments. And the ultimate message I kind of dig too. And then there's certain moments that I think pull through what they're trying to say, and they do it pretty well. But again, it's one of those things where it's like you could tell that was a last minute idea, and they didn't really have time to organically set it up well within the film, right? Like one moment I really liked was when they are trying to avoid all the debris, the space debris, and they're having to rely on the entire Earth to help them, avoid that debris and make it out safely. And it's like, okay, I see what you're trying to say here, what you're going for, and the emotional moment that you're going for. But there's no setup to it. It's just random, kind of the way it comes through. And even the ultimate end, all the stuff with the Carl Sagan voiceover and all of that. What they're trying to do, what they say, the mom/aunt character, you can tell went through a good deal of restructuring. Oh, and then also his the copy, the fake copy.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that was supposed to be far more sinister in the original version. It comes off that way to me, because that's also like a weird big setup that's kind of not that important.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, it feels like there was supposed to be more with that.
I mean, the biggest one was when he cut off part of his finger, and they literally show it as like some horror thing, like almost.
Oh,
as
they get real creepy with it, yeah.
Yeah, like almost as if maybe the aunt/mom was supposed to notice that, and was kind of supposed to get freaked out.
Yeah. That was the first thing that really threw me off in the movie was when it turns out the aunt just assumes that he's an alien, and it's like, why would she make that logical jump that her nephew's an alien? And I'm like, well, maybe that makes a little bit more sense in the original cut, where he literally, like, she sees that her call from him sort of gets snatched real time by the aliens, Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something a little bit more there. But overall, I digs a lot of what the movie's going for, and to me, I was entertained the whole time. I did find it pretty funny.
I think
there's
that
some funny
aspect
jokes
about it. I think
Mm-hmm.
that aspect about it that it is consistently entertaining. I think it is part of what saved the movie. I think dramatically.
Yeah, for sure.
I was telling David, in the audience that Peter and I had, people were enjoying themselves and people were laughing pretty consistently. So, and I mean, one of the things, and that doesn't happen all the time, but maybe it was the message, maybe it was the theme, maybe they liked Elio a lot. I don't know what it was, but the character. But clearly liked the movie because there was applause at the end, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. The audience we saw was very clearly dug it, and
it did get an Ace in score. So I mean, there is
it's liked, right? Like I think overall, the people that have seen it have genuinely enjoyed it. The numbers don't lie.
So I will say yeah. I think ultimately we're all in agreement that if this film was originally conceived by Domichi and it was carried out through the end, and there wasn't any of this restructuring, we would have had a much better put together movie. But when you consider how much of the movie seemed to already have been done, I would say it is quite impressive how good the movie is as is, considering how they basically had to reverse engineer so much of what was already put in place.
That's the thing. You realize there's a lot of scenes that, like what they did with the Daredevil, the footage is done. It's part of the movie. We're not getting rid of it. And they were still able to completely restructure, like, entire characters and it seems like all they really kept was character designs and the main basic concept of kid gets abducted by alien, pretends to be the leader of Earth.
And there were still some things that they kept, like the whole okay, love you, bye. That thing they kept, because
they already recorded it.
Well, they re-recorded it a lot. I mean, look, realistically, as far as I think Pixar is pretty economical when it comes to their animated movies, their original movies. But This one obviously ballooned because they had it seemed like they had to start over from scratch. There hasn't been too much information available. I did pull this up. So all as far like why did Adrian Molina leave? This is all that I can find. After working on the project for a couple of years, Molina felt like this is bullshit, but this is obviously, but like he felt ultimately he wasn't the one to see it to the finish line.
That's not the
Exiting
way
the
it
film,
works. Yeah.
yeah, but he didn't exit to do nothing, which is what would happen. He apparently exited in order to work on Coco 2, which Adrian Molina is the co-director of Coco 1. But my gut tells me something wasn't clicking, and he wasn't quite sure how to pull it off. So, in June 2024, Pixar's chief creative officer Pete Docter revealed that Turning Red director Domi Shi was working on the film. She was officially announced as the new director at D23 just last August, Jesus, alongside Madeline Sherifian, who previously worked on the storyboarding for this movie. The screenplay was written by a lot of cooks: Julia Cho, Mark Hammer, and Mike Jones. Cho, particularly, previously co-wrote Turning Red, so it wasn't just Domi Shi that was coming from Turning Red over to this. While Jones, interestingly enough, also part of the other screenwriter, Jones previously co-wrote Pixar's Soul and Luca. During production, when researching the topic of loneliness, the directors talked to psychologists, including Vivek Murthy, about children's loneliness and grief. Blah, 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 blah. So, okay, not really too much information about what the hell happened, but my gut just tells me that whatever was happening with Adrian Molina, it wasn't cutting it. And we have to also remind ourselves the timeline of this. It seems like what ended up working out in their favor was that Bob Iger was already on them to haul ass to streamline Inside Out 2. And they pumped that out pretty quick to switch it out for Elio. And that gave Elio, I guess, a one more year to pull off what they were able to pull off. And I must say that if you were one of these people that watched Inside Out 2, and very many people did watch Inside Out 2, it is a very frenetically paced movie. Like you can tell one of our initial reactions when watching Inside Out 2 was like, wow, was this like pushed out of the assembly line pretty freaking quickly. And I'll say this, look, I think, and Peter and I had a similar takeaway when coming out of the movie. I didn't realize that they also had they brought in the screenwriters for Turning Red and Luca and Soul, but I think Domi Shi deserves, she really is the savior of this movie. She pulled it together. I don't know how and this was not an original project. That she was like, hey, can you come in here and save this? Okay, sure. And what she was able to do, I think, is very telling of what she's really capable of. And this is a person that Pixar would be wise to keep for as long as they possibly can.
Give her more of her projects. Because it seems like Pixar's having quite an issue fostering talent, which is also another conversation we had.
Yes, because we didn't. Funny enough, I blocked it out, but I guess this is the perfect time to mention it. Overall, though, before we end off of Elio, just to be fair, David didn't say he hated it.
No, yeah, I still liked it. For a Pixar movie, saying I didn't like it as much. It's like, I don't know. I liked it. I still liked it. I have some complaints, but
Pixar is Pixar. I love most of Pixar's movies. They made an alien movie with a weird kid, and it kind of spoke to me. So it's like I think all of us generally liked it. I think just varying degrees of it. To me, Elio, I think, is really a hard movie to dislike. Even the people who are like whatever, they were like, I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just, and that should really speak for how well of a job they did to pull it together. And I will just say, as somebody who watches all the Pixar movies, I just thought it was a breath of fresh air, considering that the last two were I know I don't count Elemental because I didn't watch Elemental in theaters, but unfortunately I did watch Inside Out 2 and Lightyear, and those were like soul-sucking experiences. And watching this was just like a renew. It was like, you know how in The Last Jedi, when Snoke tells Kylo Ren, "My faith in you is restored." For now, anyway. And in the particular individuals who are attached, who are actually talented, like we mentioned earlier in the show, we will watch your career with great interest, Domishi. That's for sure. But speaking of fostering other talent, I mean, the other people involved with Pixar, I think they're far more questionable. I think all of us are excited for anything Enrico Casarosa has to offer because he, of course, directed and wrote Luca, and his next movie is called Gato, and it looks pretty great. And it doesn't, hurt that there are a couple of people on our panel who love felines quite a bit. So, and as I say that, I'm sure we're about to be bestowed
She ran
by
away.
another
It's
guest.
too late.
Oh, she ran. Okay, well. Which, by the way, I'm not sure if everyone here has seen Flow. I know Peter and I saw Flow, but that's a movie also features a cat. So
It does?
watch that one. Which I believe won the Academy Award this year for Best Animated Feature. So
It did.
Interesting.
It did. That
which I
probably
will
helped
say-
to get Gato greenlit.
I'm gonna make a prediction right now because of all my favorites crashing and burning. My prediction is Elio will not win Best Animated Feature, and since I don't know of any other non,
My prediction
Disney
is it
animated
doesn't
movie-
even get nominated.
No, I think it will because it is Pixar. And I don't know how many other nominated movies are going to be, how many animated movies are going to be in the race. But later this year, unfortunately, is Zootopia 2, and watch that be the sequel that actually wins.
Never mind, she
animated
came back.
feature. And Zootopia 2 is going to be watched by a lot of people.
Mhm.
So, unfortunately, Elio doesn't have a chance because nobody watched it. And 2, I like it, so that's all she wrote. So that's on Elio. But as far as the other people that are at Pixar, and the news that was made recently, that Peter Sohn, the director of The Good Dinosaur and Elemental, is now going to be directing Incredibles 3. And I do want to say, before we get into it, Incredibles 3 is a movie that shouldn't be made. For a lot of reasons. First and foremost, clearly Brad Bird does not care. I don't think he wants to be at the helm of this. I don't think he wants to be making this. They're saying so far that he is writing the screenplay. We'll see if that is even true in the end. Because I don't know how far away Incredibles 3 is, but I mean, yeah. Peter Sohn's doing Incredibles 3, and then I don't know what else Dan Scanlon is doing. Dan Scanlon is the one that recently directed Onward and Monsters University. I will say, look, not enough, I think, is being made about how, and I know that Dan Scanlon and Peter Sohn are not as good as the other ones, but I do want to say, regardless of how you feel about this era of Pixar, Dan Scanlon with Onward, Peter Sohn with Elemental, Enrico Casarosa with Luca, Domi Shi with Turning Red, Pete Docter with Soul, and this was still going off of the original idea of Adrian Molina, but Domi Shi carried it out with Elio. Like, all of these movies are basically like, I love that these are original stories that are being propelled by creators who are heavily basing it off of experiences that they've gone through in their own lives. And I like the fact that Pixar was giving them that chance to air out those stories. And what quite frankly should be prioritized over, as Pete Docter said this week, Toy Story 27. Peter, you wanted to speak about the state of Pixar and the current people that they have at home?
No, yeah, that's what I just said. That I'm not a fan of, what is it, Peter's song from whatever his
Peter
name
Sohn.
is. Yeah, not too crazy about him. Not crazy about the other one who did Monsters U, and what's the
Onward.
other one?
Onward.
Onward. Yeah. Yeah, it's just they're not at the level of what I would
Cars
consider
3?
Pixar to be. I have never connected with those films. I just think they're like at best fine kids films, but they
I
don't have
thought
that
you liked The
special
Good
magic.
Dinosaur.
Huh?
I thought you liked The Good Dinosaur.
I like how weird it is. The weirdness sells me on it, and it can
David,
only
do
exist.
you think Peter would like Elemental?
I don't think I would.
I think you would. Yeah.
So
It's-
the trailers are very misleading about what it actually is. It's actually a really cool immigration story,
Mm-hmm.
an immigrant story. So I think you.
Boo.
Well, I don't think you'll love it, but I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I think.
Maybe I'll give it a shot. But okay, just the whole idea of like she's fire and he's water.
The trailers were
and
terrible.
it's
That's why I
like-
didn't watch it in theaters.
No, yeah,
That's what I will say.
that part.
It's such a stupid premise.
No, yeah, that part of the trailers. I mean, yeah, it wasn't selling me either. But I think they do get creative as to how they sort of look at each other in a unique way. So
And I will say, I do like the lead characters are
Mhm.
pretty fun to watch. Yeah, it's also a
You
love
own-
story, so it's like
You
know, I'm
own
sucker for
Cars
those.
too. I don't know.
It's not gonna be
Yeah.
okay. I own Cars too, but am I the one that puts it above Up?
That is genuinely disgusting. Yes.
I'm not the one.
No
To
one's
be
arguing.
clear.
No one's arguing that. No one is arguing that. Maybe I'll give it a
We should-
shot.
but
But
we
I
should say, like, Do you agree with me about this era of Pixar? Are you as enthusiastic about it as I am? Because I'll just to put it into context.
well,
like, we're not always
because it
on
includes
the
all these goddamn sequels.
Okay, but Can we? That's not okay. I think the sequels that we're about to get is
Mhm.
this other era. I'm talking about from 2020 to like right now. Is like we have
Including
this,
Inside Out too.
Yeah, but you're focusing on the sequels. What I'm focusing on is we got way more original movies out of
Name 'em.
Pixar in these last 5
Name
years. I did already. Onward, Soul, Luca, Turning Red, Elio, Elemental. I named them several times. We got way more original animated movies from Pixar in these
Yeah.
last 5 years.
I'll always
than
prefer
we've
that.
had in the previous 10 years. That's what
Yes.
I'm talking about.
I will
Now,
always prefer that.
Am I
I
saying
always so prefer that they're
that-
great, but yeah.
yes? Am I saying that it's going to be great from here on out? No, because the era that we're about to enter, thanks to Bob Iger, is actually pretty hideous. I
Yeah.
am very, very upset that they're doing Toy Story 5. Like,
It's
I could
embarrassing.
Not be angry
It's embarrassing at this
about
point.
that.
Yeah.
So when it comes
Um,
to the sequels going forward, I think enough is enough, quite frankly. Now, I know that we
it's
had
gonna make $1 billion,
disagreements.
and he's gonna announce 4 more sequels the next day.
Well, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I mean that you and I are fed
Oh
up
yeah,
with the
no,
number of
like I
sequels.
probably won't watch Toy Story 5 in theaters. I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched. I won't watch it. Incredible. I've avoided all these sequels. I stopped watching them because I don't care. I didn't see Inside Out too. I still
It's
haven't.
not.
I don't
You didn't
care.
miss anything, really. Honestly,
'Cause
you
I
didn't
don't-
miss anything
it's-
about Inside
yeah.
Out 2. Lightyear
No, yeah, no,
technically
I
wasn't a
agree. It's gonna
sequel,
be
but we do
worse.
count it as one.
Huh?
Lightyear technically was not a sequel, but I think it still kind of counts as like an offshoot or
It's
something.
the worst of all worlds. That movie.
Yeah. But I mean, it was just really unfortunate that this era of all these originals was just mired in all of this like crap circling around it.